There, David Morris, the Tory MP from Morecambe and Loonsdale. Hello, David.
Hello there, good
to
evening.
see you. Good to see you. Tom, have the Lord's not got a point here? This massive natural resource sitting under the ground, why on earth should we not use it?
Well, the report from the Lords actually says a number of different things as well. It makes clear that the tax break which the government have offered isn't necessarily appropriate. It makes clear that the impact on prices will be, if there is any impact, will be minimal. And it also points out actually the wildly fluctuating figures in relation to jobs are firstly based on US figures, and secondly the figures which David Cameron has used frequently, the 74,000 figure which comes from an Institute of Directors report, is quite different from the scale from the detailed work that the Department of Environment did themselves. But nobody knows, and nobody can know, and nobody will know how much shale gas is extractable until the exploration happens. The exploration won't happen until there is public confidence in local areas, in David's area, in the Jurassic shale formation in Kent and Sussex, or even in in places like where I'm sitting in the centre of Scotland. And it won't happen unless the regulation is properly robust and the monitoring is comprehensive.
David?
Those things need to be in place first.
Yeah. Well, my view on it is that we should start fracking sooner rather than later because, as Tom has just said, it's unknown exactly how much gas is down there. It's unknown exactly what's going to happen in the jobs front. I've done a rough estimate in my area. It's going to be as big as the nuclear power industry in my constituency, which equates to about 2,000 jobs. So, if it's going to get our gas bills down, we should start sooner rather than later because it's going to create employment in my area and the energy coast.
But there are concerns, aren't they, about monitoring it, about regulating it?
Well, as we're speaking, I've just been looking at the regulation.
It's not just about starting sooner or later and no implications. We've got to find out what we're actually doing here.
Well, as you were saying about the Lord's report coming back through, they want things, they want excavations to start to be easier. I don't think we have to change what we've got there already. We already have the most stringent legislative procedures in place for any licensing of shale gas in the whole world. So, I'm not particularly worried about this. Bear in mind, I was the first MP ever to hold a debate on fracking in the House of Commons, and my concerns were exactly the concerns of many people out there. What's it going to do to the ground that the fracking is going to be carried out upon? What's going to happen to the local area? Is there going to be environmental issues going to be there? What's the economic benefit to the country? And it goes on.
Yeah, David, is David Cameron and colleagues like your colleague, like George Osborne, over-enthusiastic about fracking and the benefits that it might bring, given the number of unknown questions out there? David Cameron speaks of cheap gas. He talks about security of supply. But you've got people like Lord Brown, the chairman of one of the biggest fracking companies potentially out there, saying we should not expect a lot of cheap gas to come from this in the same way that we've seen in the USA.
Well, to be fair to the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, they were very cautious at first. I was very cautious at first. I went into it my eyes wide open, had meetings with various companies, looked at various reports, listened to all the concerns about seismic activity in my area, and I came to the conclusion that it could only be a good thing the way that we actually conduct our affairs. How we frack in this country is different from what we do abroad. I've been abroad to see what goes on there, and our legislation's a lot different. Of course, Lord Brown says we should be concerned. Of course we should be concerned. Any form of energy and how we extract it has got to be cautiously scrutinised. But we've done that process now, and don't forget that the gas industry, this is not a panacea for our energy woes. We should have been building nuclear power stations 20 years ago. We should have been building all forms of power stations in the past, 20 years while we've had a Labour government. We didn't build any. So we're now facing an energy deficit, and we're also facing higher bills because of it.
I mean, in America, we've seen how shale gas has literally transformed the economy, hasn't
Yes.
it? It's just brought benefits in terms of not just the energy industry, but growth across the USA that could have been unforeseen a short while ago. It's not especially foreseen that could happen or is likely to happen here.
In all reality, it's going to take about 10 years before we start seeing any effect from fracking. It's going to take that long for the companies to invest, to excavate, to drill, to set up their collective shop, if you will, across the country. But the good thing is that when we do get this situation on tap, excuse the pun. You know, we're not going to be industrialising the countryside, as a lot of opponents to fracking would say. You know, we have got legislation in place that the ground has got to be put back to the state it was found in. The well caps, as you know, are more or less the size of a police box, a large phone box. Look, any form of energy has always got its cost and its price. But in this case, it's got a low carbon footprint. We can extract it easily. You know, we don't know how many trillions of cubic meters are underneath the area where I represent, never mind out into the bay or even into the Trough of Bowland. We just don't know. Until we start excavating and start getting to grips with this and using this new technology, we're just, we don't know. But we do know that it will lower the gas bills in time.
Yeah, and the argument's given, I guess, more force by the crisis in Ukraine, for one thing, isn't it? When we see, well, the way that energy is used as a lever, as a club, as a threat by Vladimir Putin.
Well, yes, our energy prices are rising because we are beholden to, the former Soviet Union bloc countries, or the middlemen in between. We've known that for many, many years. What do we do about that? Well, we make ourselves more self-sufficient by building nuclear power stations, by fracking, by looking into alternative means of energy. That is something that the coalition has been doing. I've been critical that they've been spending too much time looking into renewables. A lot would argue with me on that. I'm not against renewables, but I don't think it's going to plug the gap in the whole energy mix for our deficit that we're going to be experiencing and are starting to experience now. So, how do we negate that? The only way forward is to start, if you can't beat them, join them, start making the gas yourself or extracting the gas and start getting those bills lowered.
Tom, what's Labour's alternative if you're against this?
Well, I'm not against it, and what I'm against is having a simplistic and careless approach to this, which is reliant on hype. What we need is a balanced and cautious approach rooted in evidence, and the evidence is clear that the experience of the United States, simplistically extrapolating that to the UK, is not valid for a number of different reasons, including the fact that in the US currently they can't export the gas. That means they've got a lot of it and the price has come down. And that actually, to be fair, the House of Lords report makes clear that the impact on prices, which David referred to, and which the Prime Minister referred to, is nowhere near as significant as some people say. And so when George Osborne, as he has done, talks about cheap gas, I'm afraid that's not a complete picture. My concern about this is that what happens is this becomes seen as and presented as a silver bullet. It's a distraction to the requirement we need to have a broad-based energy mix. Now, we don't actually get very much gas from Russia, but we do import more gas now than we indigenously produce, and that's changed within the last 10 years. We import a lot from Norway. We import other amounts of gas from Qatar and other places. And so if for energy security reasons we can extract gas ourselves, then that is good for energy security reasons, but it has to be robustly regulated and comprehensively monitored. And the issues around regulation are not complete. There are a number of issues which still haven't been properly addressed by the government in relation to, for example, seismic monitoring ahead of activity happening. And the issues around the monitoring are actually pretty significant because we've seen cuts in the Environment Agency. Now, for the first couple of bits of activity, then I'm sure they'll be able to do so. But if this takes off in a way without that monitoring being able to happen, then I think that's going to affect public confidence. And public confidence is important in this, as with any other form of energy.
Tom, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. David, thank you for coming in.
No,
tonight.
thank you.